Good morning. Today I'm going to show you something very exciting. I'm going to show you how you can turn any napkin that you might use to wipe your face and a tile that you might have in the bathroom into a fabulous coaster that you can put on your fancy dining table and use for your hot drinks so you don't create rings on the dining table. So, for the procedure of how to make a coaster, these are the materials that you will need. You will need a tile. My tiles are about 97 millimeters across and they're a perfect square. It doesn't really matter if they're not exactly 10 centimeters. So when you choose your tile, think about the type of cups you have at your house and you want it to have a bit of space around the edge. So if you have smaller cups, you might choose a smaller tile, or if you have quite large cups, you might choose a tile that's a different shape. So you need one tile. You'll need at least one napkin. You can choose any pattern that you like. I have quite a different variety of napkins. You can choose any that you like as long as it's able to peel, as long as they're peelable, because the part that you want is the pattern. The other thing that you will need is a paint pen. This part is optional. You don't have to line the side there, but it does look a lot better if you do. You'll also need some of these. It's a sticky felt dot. You can get it from any craft store or like a hardware store, or you can even get them online. I got mine online. So that's just for the edges here. So you'll need 4 of those per coaster. You'll also need a sanding sponge. It doesn't have to be a bendy one, but I find the bendy one is easier than those thin paper sanders. So I've chosen one like this. This was just from Bunnings. You also need this fabulous Mod Podge glue. So you don't want to use normal craft glue. This is a special glue that's a sealer, it's a glue and it's a finish. And that's how you get this really good shine. It actually makes it quite hard and sturdy. So there's different types of Mod Podge. I went for the gloss, so that's going to make it nice and shiny. You'll also need some sort of paintbrush of your choice. It's better if it has a wide bristle because that way you can evenly spread the glue on your tile. You don't want one that's really small because then you're going to have gaps in your glue and it's just not going to look right. You also need something that you can use to put the glue on. This could be a foam shelf or plate like this, or you could also use a plastic cup. It's up to you and what you have at your home. So, step 1 is to take either your foam plate, foam container, and your glue, and you want a small amount of glue on the foam plate. Okay, just a small amount. You don't want too much because when it dries, it does harden and become unusable. So you just want a small amount, probably like a tablespoon amount per coaster. So that's probably enough. Then you take your paintbrush and you dip it in the glue and you're going to spread a layer. I don't know if you can see on the camera. You're going to spread a layer all over the surface of your tile, and you also want a small layer along the edge. Okay, this is going to mean that you're not going to have gaps when you put your napkin pattern on your tile. So you want to spread it out really evenly, and of course a little bit over the edge here like that. Good. Now you can leave that for about 10 seconds to let the glue get ready and get extra sticky. Then you're going to select your napkin. Now, you can use a piece of sticky tape to separate it, but what I like to do is I'll fold out my napkin. I'm going to gently tear, or you can probably use scissors to cut. You only need about 1/4 of the napkin because my tiles are quite small. It will depend on the size of your tile and the size of your napkin. So you're going to tear very gently or cut. Then you'll have about a quarter. Now, because I teared instead of cutting, see how it's already starting to come apart? If I had used scissors, it wouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to separate. These are 2-layer napkins. Some napkins have 3 layers. Doesn't really matter. But what you want is the patterned edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to check that my tile has enough glue. I might even put a little bit more on the edges, just in case. I don't want any gaps at all. And as you can see, I've used up my glue, so that was the perfect amount, about a tablespoon amount of glue for your tile. So I'm going to move the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So I have my tile and I'm going to pull out my napkin and I'm going to straighten it out. We don't want any bubbles or any bits that aren't completely smooth. So I'm starting in the middle and I'm going to super gently rub it in circles from the middle all the way out to the edge. You want to go slowly so that you don't have any uneven surfaces. Okay. The other thing I didn't mention was think about the position of your pattern. Okay, so this pattern has cats on it. I don't want to cut my head off at the neck. So think about the size of your tile and the size of your napkin. So if I hadn't cut my napkin into quarters, I could easily have half a cat from the neck down. So that's why it's very important to think about the size of your napkin and the size of your tile. Now this is sticking pretty well in the middle. Around the edge, do you see how it's not completely flat? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get a small amount of glue here, just a little bit more. I won't need that full amount. Just going to really just wet the brush. And I'm going to go around again, just with another thin layer. I'm going to turn it over like that. Okay, so see what I've done here on the side? I've cut off half my cat's face. If you don't want to do that, think about the position of your napkin with your tile. Now you don't want the pattern on the back, so I've probably used a bit too much glue here, as you can see. So you want to, again, use just enough glue to stick it, but you don't want like a huge amount. You don't want it to be too wet. So I'm going again with my glue, and I'm going to gently fold the napkin, gently with my hands, like that. Now this is very delicate. It's a lot thinner than a piece of paper. So you do need to be careful as you're going around because it tears really, really easily. Yeah, so see again in the corner, it didn't have enough glue. So you might even like to have extra glue in each corner. Then you're going to gently just flatten down your edges. And the same thing on this side here. Now, don't worry if there's a fold like this on the side. The main thing is that the face of your tile is smooth. We're going to set this down and let it dry, probably for at least half an hour, because you want it to get quite strong. After you've done that, after it's dried, what you're going to do is you're going to put another layer over the top. So I'm not going to do that because this hasn't dried yet. But if it was dry, I'd get my glue and I would go over it again with another thin layer, then let it dry again. So that's 2 layers of glue. That's 1 layer on the tile, then the thin piece of napkin, then another piece of glue on top. So this is going to take at least 2 separate sessions. So 1 session to get this bit of the napkin on and another to do a layer on the top. Now, there is the option of doing another layer, so 3 total layers of glue, but that's not necessary. So as long as you have at least 2 layers, your coaster is going to be fine. So after you've done that, after you've done your second layer and you've let it dry, you then would get this sander and sand very gently on the edges like that. Okay. Now see how this is coming apart? So you need to be really gentle when you're sanding, otherwise your pattern is going to come off. So I'm just super gently sanding and I'm rubbing the sander against the bottom edge of the tile. And that's going to help my napkin come off. So you just do that all the way around. You don't want a piece of your napkin hanging off the side. Go all the way around. Okay. Now you can leave the sides like this with your napkin. And that looks quite nice. You can just leave it like that once it's dried. The other option is to get one of these. It's like a paint pen. Shake it like this. Once I have sanded all of this off, I would then go over it like a pen. So then this will turn into this. Now look at my 2 that I've done earlier. Do you see how the edges of this one, the pattern is, it's going all the way to the edge and I'm not having any blank sections with no pattern. This was the first one that I did. And do you see here how there's a gap? That happened because I didn't have enough glue and I didn't glue the napkin all the way on the edge. So just keep that in mind. The final step, once you've glued it on, you've got 2 or 3 layers, you've decided what you're doing with your edge, is the foam edges. So I've got these little foam stickers and all you have to do is peel it off and then very gently place it in each of the corners of your tile. And you would do this at the end so that you don't get glue or paint pen or anything on them. I'm just doing it to show you how it's done. And then that's it. Then you have your fabulous coaster with any pattern of your choice. You can put it on the table for your drinks. Also make a lovely gift. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and have fun making your coasters.